Hi there, welcome to this new build. Got something a little bit different and not my usual kind of thing on the table today. What I'm going to be building is this Keil Kraft Gypsy 40-inch wingspan, and it was designed in 1949 by Bill Dean. Now this is a little bit different for me for two reasons. One, I haven't built anything like this for decades. In fact, it takes me back to my childhood building Keil Kraft kits with my father, rubber pad models, and I even converted some to fly free flight with a Cox engine. But anyway, that's aside. So I haven't built something like this for a long time. And also, I generally don't build stuff from kits. It's been a few years since I've built a kit. If you've seen my channel, I know a lot of people watch my videos and subscribe and will know that I generally like to build from plans. But when I saw this kit, I mean, it's a Rip Max modern kit. It's laser cut. It's not an original Keil Kraft kit. You can probably tell by the design on the box. But when I wanted to build the Gypsy, 40-inch wingspan Gypsy, and I was looking at plans and balsa, and then I saw these, and the price of these from Rip Max is not much more than you'd pay for the components, to be honest. And by the time you've got the tissue and printed out the plans and everything, I just thought I should build this from a modern kit, have a little bit of a change. So anyway, this arrived recently, and we're going to open it up and we're going to have a look and see what we get. I haven't had a look inside yet, so I'm hoping that we've got some decent balsa, plans, tissue. I believe it's got most of what we need to build this, including the plastic prop and rubber for the motor. And I will say at this point that I will build it with the rubber and the prop supplied, but I suspect it's something that I will update once I've flown it. I'm interested to see how it flies standard, but I think it will certainly benefit from a bigger prop, having looked at the size of the prop on this. I can't remember what it says. It says it's somewhere on the box. I'm also not going to be making this free flight. It's going to be a radio assist model. I think it's going to be a single channel with a rudder, which gives me some challenges because we need to keep this really light. And so I'm going to get some kind of, going to use very small micro servos, small receiver, and a small LiPo, one cell LiPo probably, to get this weight really light, because it'll be impacted if I put a big radio system in it. But the reason that I'm making it radio assisted, because it's quite difficult to find decent free flight sites in the UK these days, and the site that or the two sites I fly at mostly, I need to be able to keep it within the confines of a certain restricted area. So, but hopefully we can do that without too much problem. And I might even, I think, fit a dethermalizer to it. But I am very mindful of keeping the weight down. Anyway, let's have a quick look inside and see what we get for our money. Right, let's get this thing open. So that's a decent sized prop. Let me get a ruler. And what is that, 12-inch? Yeah, 12-inch. I think the original Keil Kraft Gypsy had something like a 14 or a 16-inch prop. So like I say, I'll try that. I'll see how it runs with that. But to be honest, I really fancy carving my own prop as well. So that'll be quite a good thing to do. I'm guessing we've got a nose block. We've got a bag of components, which we'll just carefully open without cutting the rubber motor. So we've got some nice, very lightweight wheels, plastic bands. I guess these are going to be holding the wings on. We've got for the motor at the front for the prop, and we've got some rubber, bit of wire for the prop, and I guess we will probably end up upgrading this rubber. But like I said, I would like to see how it works as it's planned to work originally with this kit. 1/4 inch square, or is that 3/16? Various sizes. That looks quite hard balsa, to be honest. We've got the laser cut components. Looks quite nice laser cutting. Let me just pull the box back. The timber again looks pretty hard. I mean, this is one of the reasons I like building from plans. You can select your own balsa and you're not kind of dictated as to the balsa you get. Again, this looks really hard balsa for the ribs, and for ribs like this it really doesn't need to be hard. So a little bit disappointing perhaps that the balsa is not better than that. It is, gosh, it is. You stick your nail in it, it is really quite hard. So that is disappointing. We've got some spars, other bits. Is that plywood or balsa? It's hard to tell. No, that's plywood. The balsa's so hard it's a bit like plywood. Another piece. So we've got the balsa we need anyway. We've got a bit of acetate, which is going to be for the windscreen. We've got our building instructions, how to do the motor, which is quite nice. So that looks like it might be in German, is it? That looks, I'm not very good at German, but that looks German to me. Oh, here we go, here's the English version. That's useful. We've got some tissue, and I think we only get white tissue with this. A few sheets. Oh, it looks quite nice tissue actually. So we've got the tissue, and we've got some more spars, pieces of balsa, piece of doweling for the motor at the back. That's a piece of bamboo which is a little bit bent. I'm not quite sure what that would be for. And we've got the music wire for the wheels, I guess, or the landing gear. 2 pieces, not sure why we've got 2. So just on the box, what have we got? German, English, and so it says it's 40-inch wingspan, rubber powered. Yeah, there's nothing there that adds anything particularly. It says it's made in China, and we've got the plans, which actually are printed on some quite thick waxy paper. And let's just turn that around. Well, the plans look quite nice, big clear printed plans. So I'm pleased with that anyway. That looks quite nice. So what I'm going to do now is we'll get all these lengths of balsa back in the box, and we will get all of these ribs cut out. Like I say, they're quite substantial pieces of balsa, and when I say substantial, I mean quite hard pieces of balsa. So to cut these out, we'll just need to cut the 4 tabs, I think it is, and then these should just drop out. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a small model. Having hard balsa like this probably won't add too much to the weight, and I'm just going to get I think I need to change my blade, but just smooth off where those little bit of lugs were. You can just see the light patches where it was still connected, and if I hold the balsa up, you can see on the lugs here, the lugs here on the ribs. So we just cut those out. So I'll get all these components cut out, separated into their various piles, and I think we probably do the wings first. But I'll get these cut out and have a think. Well, this isn't something you'll see very often, but when you've got a plan with really quite some serious folds in it, then it's really good to get the iron out and just to give it a quick once over. It makes a huge difference. You can see it flattening out already. We're not going to get it perfect, but it'll be a lot easier to work with. Right, well, I've got my plans nice and flat now, and I've decided to build the fuselage first, and I've only cut out the components for the fuselage. I thought probably best to leave these in here, and then I can select them for the wings when I want to do the wings and the tail. it's quite therapeutic in a way to go through and cut out all these laser cut bits, and it's quite good to be able to familiarise myself with the components I've got and where they're going to go. So it's good to get them all cut out at once. I will probably just give them a little touch with a bit of a sanding stick, just to make sure that those little lugs that I cut aren't kind of sticking proud and going to affect the build. And to be honest, it's quite nice to get a little bit of the charring off just from the laser cutting. Not that it is particularly well charred. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set this out on my balsa building board, which I've got here, and get some plastic over the plans and get these two fuselage sides built. I do need to be mindful that I'm going to put a hatch in for some radio gear, which I will do exactly on the CG, I think, and also maybe very slightly forward, because I am going to do a dethermalizer on the tail assembly, so that might add a little bit of weight. So anyway, I need to be mindful of that when I'm building the fuselage. So I'll get this set up now, we'll get these two sides built. Right, well, I've got the plans laid out on my balsa building board, which I can pin into nicely, and I've got a selection of different size pins. Probably use these nice fine glass headed ones mostly. I've also got some plastic spread across the plans to protect them, and I'm using just like cling film. It's a sandwich wrap, food wrap, and this is PVC free. I think it's always good the less plastic we can use. So I've got that nicely flattened, held down with these weights, and we're going to start sticking up this fuselage. Now in the instructions, quite rightly, it says don't pin through the balsa because you'll weaken it. These sides are 1/8 square. So what I've done is I've raided my scrap box and got all these pieces, and I'm just going to pin these along here to allow these 1/8 square pieces to just follow the line of the fuselage, and thereby they'll be held in place and we can do the vertical sticks. So I'm going to get on and do that. One thing to note is that the join here is needed because these pieces aren't long enough, which is a shame because you can get timber this long, but obviously it wouldn't fit in the box, and they didn't want to fold it. So anyway, I will get on and stick these up. I thought it's worth doing a quick update. For a start, I've put pins on the side of the balsa here rather than the bits of balsa out my scrap box, on the places where there's not much pressure, just to hold it. Where there's quite a bit of pressure here and here, I have used a balsa block just so we don't dent the balsa. But there's very little pressure in this, so putting the pins either side is fine. I had a little bit of an issue with F1 and F7. Both of them were too tall compared to the plans. So that's, you can see there how much I cut off F1, and I just cut a slither off F7. They just, I mean, I was scratching my head for ages thinking maybe there's something I'm missing here, but no, it is just the fact that those pieces are just a little bit oversized. But it's no problem, easy enough to cut. Now I'm going to start gluing this up, and I'm going to be using just thin CA throughout. I might go around afterwards with some slightly thicker CA, but probably just this thin CA. So I'll get on and start gluing this up now. Right, well, I've now got the one side sticked up, and just a note, F4 here I had to trim, and this F4 does go between the long runs. There is another piece, F5, which goes on the inside, but yeah, that definitely goes between the long runs, so it needed trimming as well. So all of these formers are a little bit too big. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just clean this up a little bit, make sure there's no high spots, put some plastic on it and build up the second side. Well, the build of this Ripmax Gypsy that we've started has come to a bit of an abrupt halt really, and I'm not very happy. I mean, as you can see, I've got one of the fuselage sides here completed, and I was halfway through building the second one, and it just didn't feel right. These formers here, the 1, 2 and 3, having to trim those down, it just didn't sit right with me, and I ended up sort of questioning what I was doing, and it turns out the plans aren't the correct size. Now I know there's going to be people out there thinking, well, he always says check the plans, but and you should always check the plans, but normally I'm talking about when you're building from plans you've printed and downloaded. You would think if you're getting a kit from Ripmax, and you know, for something like a Keil Kraft Gypsy, you would expect the plans to be the correct size. Originally, when I trimmed down the 3 formers, I thought maybe they just got printed slightly oversized, but it just kept niggling at me that something wasn't quite right. And if we have a look at the wings here and the ribs, you can see that there's quite a big discrepancy. Well, you can see here we've got a 40-inch wingspan model, and so presumably we have a 20-inch wing and a 20-inch wing. But when we look at this, we've got a, well, it's 116 over 19-inch. So essentially the wingspan is 2 inches shorter than it should be. We can also see with the wing ribs here, we've got W1, W2 and W3 in their corresponding positions. And these are let into this trailing edge, but they're at least 1/4 of an inch too long, or longer than they should be. In fact, that one even looks a little bit longer than that. Now, I could just carry on with this build and I could make it, I think it works out about 5 or 6%, about 5% too small. So I could make a smaller Gypsy, but it means altering all of the laser cut parts, and it's kind of like, what's the point if I'm going to have to modify every single piece? Then it's hardly worth doing. So I've come to a kind of a decision that these plans are available on AutoZone, and I've checked the measurements on AutoZone, and we get a 40-inch wingspan, and the ribs and everything are the right size for the plans off AutoZone. So I'm going to have to put these plans to one side because they're clearly junk, unless you want to build a small Gypsy, which I don't. So we're going to get rid of these plans. I'm going to be printing out some new plans from AutoZone, and I'm going to start and build these 2 fuselage sides, or 1.5 fuselage sides again. I mean, I was kind of disappointed with the quality of the timber because I wouldn't have known this was actually balsa if it hadn't said on the box. I've never seen balsa as hard as this. And in actual fact, some of it, like this, is 2 sheets of balsa, or 2 bits of balsa that have been glued together to make a decent sized sheet to cut this out, which, I don't know, it'd be nice if it was out of a single piece of balsa rather than a glued up made piece. So anyway, as you can tell, I'm pretty hacked off with my Ripmax Keil Kraft Gypsy kit. I have, in fairness, it could just be a simple printing error, and I have contacted Ripmax, and I haven't had a reply yet. I've only just fired it off. A nice, pleasant email. So hopefully they'll get back and they'll put this right. But we'll see. In the meantime, and I'll let you know what happens with that. In the meantime, I'm going to. I mean, the video till now shows the technique of making these sides, which is all valid, it's good. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull this video to a close, and I'm going to print out some bigger plans for the fuselage on my A3 printer off AutoZone, and I'm going to make these again. And then in the next video we will start with the fuselage sides finished as if it never happened. So, well, I'll mention it, of course. I don't know whether I'll be able to help myself. But anyway, I hope you've found this video interesting and useful and instructive. It certainly is a really important lesson that I always say, check the flipping plans. So anyway, I will pull this to a close now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll let you know what happens in the next video if I've heard back from Ripmax.